Coming up in this video, guys, we got to talk about a WWE star who is being forced to retire potentially. Also, an AEW star calls out Triple H. And yes, we are going to talk about a huge TNA announcement, one that I'm super excited to talk about. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Ango Show. And if you guys want more videos like this, don't forget to click that subscribe button. We are in the hunt for 100,000 subscribers. Your support is appreciated. I'm super excited to talk about this because TNA made a huge announcement for when they go to Bound for Glory, and they have officially announced that Mickie James will be inducted into the Hall of Fame. Now, you guys have never heard this story before, but I want to share this story because there are personal experiences that I've had, you know, by being a wrestling creator, in which I have been blessed to speak with tons of people in the industry. And one thing that I have been very, very, very happy about is my experience with meeting Mickie James. Now, I don't know if Mickie will ever remember this story, and I sure as hell don't know if Mickie James truly knows who I am, which is why this is even a better story than anything. But when I was backstage at Impact Wrestling a couple years ago, they were in Canada, I was invited backstage, and you know, you meet a whole bunch of people and you talk to people, and I was seeing how everything was unfolding and the processes for everything. And one thing that was really dope was meeting Mickie James. I spilled something backstage, and Mickie James was there, and I felt really terrible because she was busy working, and I felt really terrible about spilling something, and I had to clean it up, and she helped me do that. And I didn't get in trouble. I didn't get yelled at. In fact, it led to a very nice conversation. And Mickie James, I will remember that because she's a human being. And sometimes, you know, it could kind of be an interesting situation. You go backstage, you're the YouTuber who talks about wrestling. Maybe people know you, maybe they don't. But when you meet somebody of that nature, you spill something backstage, it's kind of a weird thing. And I don't even know if I really should be telling the story. But my point that I'm making is I met Mickie James through that experience. I didn't get yelled at. In fact, she was just such a lovely person to talk to, such a nice person to talk to. And just in that brief interaction, it just made me realize like how cool the environment is and how certain people truly are just incredible people. And obviously, when you look at professionally, the career of Mickie James totally deserves a Hall of Fame induction. But that's one story that I will always remember. And that's one of those things where it's like, dude, on a personal level, I cheer for you. Like I genuinely hope the best for you. You know what I mean? It could have been a very awkward moment. It could have been a really weird, sour moment, but that's not what it was. And that was just a really cool thing, man. And shout out to Mickie. She definitely deserves the Hall of Fame induction. Super excited to see her get inducted. I can't wait to hear her speech. And it is definitely well-deserved. 1,000,000%. Without a doubt, no debate. That brings us to our next topic. MVP reportedly calling Triple H out. He says, I have zero respect for Triple H. He goes on to say, you know, personally or professionally, he was doing the TMZ Inside the Ring, and he was asked about his previously stated criticisms towards Triple H, and he is not backing down from his comments. In fact, he's doubling down. He said, I stand by my words. I have zero respect for him personally or professionally. And when I tell why, then people will be like, okay, that makes sense. He ended his thoughts on the matter by referencing his personal code of conduct, implying his issues with Triple H are direct and that he is not afraid to own his words. If I say something about you, I will say it to you. And if you come and ask me about what I said, I'm not going to deny that I said it. I'm going to say, yes, I said it. Now, would you like me to talk further? Where do we go from here? If I say something about you and you come and ask me about it, I'm not going to deny that I said it, and I'll just leave it at that. Now, MVP has not really opened up about his criticisms towards Triple H. We've heard a couple times, you know, whether it be social media and stuff, people have definitely assumed based on social media activity, but MVP has definitely not truly opened up about the situation. But as he said, he's not really afraid to own his words. Now, whatever it may be, it is what it is, right? Like his experiences with Triple H, obviously going to be different from other wrestlers' experience with Triple H. And, you know, at the end of the day, there's no such thing as a perfect boss, man. And I say this all the time. There's people that like Vince McMahon, and there's people that didn't like working for Vince McMahon. There's people that like working for Triple H. There's people that don't like working for Triple H. There's people that like working with Tony Khan, and there's people that don't like working with Tony Khan. if you take wrestling out of it, that is essentially the most like real life thing in the world, right? You're going to have a job. Sometimes you're just not going to like your boss. But at the end of the day, you have bills, you have a family to provide for, you have things to do, and therefore you're just going to show up to work and do your thing. And then, you know, as we saw with MVP, him and Shelton and Bobby, they left WWE, they went to AEW, and so far things seem to be going well there. Hopefully it remains that way, right? Like, I think that's a very fair analysis of the situation. Listen, I'm not here to defend Triple H, but the reality is not everybody's going to be happy in their situation. Not everybody's going to be happy with actions. Everybody has a different experience. Obviously, we don't know specifically what was said or what was done to rub MVP the wrong way, so I can't make a judgment there. But whatever he feels or whatever he experiences, his story to tell, yeah, I mean, it's pretty common. This thing kind of happens, right, in real life and in professional wrestling. And I think we should just leave it at that. But hopefully things are going well for MVP now. Let's talk about it, ladies and gentlemen. Piper Niven, is she being forced to retire? Is this a situation where maybe she has suffered a career-ending injury? Well, we know that Fightful Select has come out and confirmed that Piper Niven is indeed injured. The other day, I made a video talking about Chelsea Green posting something about looking for a new Secret Service member. So we know that Fightful has confirmed the injury. The specific nature and severity of the injury has not been publicly disclosed. So at this point in time, this is now where we get into speculation. Brian Alvarez has reported that there is some concern within WWE that her injury could be potentially career-threatening. He says there's a concern that it could be career-threatening, career-ending. So whatever it is, I mean, it is serious. Hopefully she could come back, but she is out due to injury. Obviously, we haven't seen her since August 22nd, which was a tape show. And at this point, it's kind of like a waiting game to see what's going on. This sucks. Piper Niven's a really cool talent. She's one of those people that, you know, Vince McMahon didn't really book her that well. We saw what happened with the Dewdrop thing, but we know Piper Niven from NXT UK, and we know that she could wrestle and she's a good performer. And the stuff that's going on with Chelsea Green and Alba Fire has been awesome with Piper in there. And like, you know, I like to talk about this in a way that is positive. Some wrestlers eventually break out and become a big solo act, right? And they become champion and they do all these cool things. Sometimes you're just a utility player, meaning you are there to make the show better, but you are not the star of the show. Some people would say Piper Niven is going to always be a utility player. When I watch the Secret Service storyline unfold, I immediately think Piper Niven will eventually break away and use this as a way to catapult her into some major singles success. Obviously, with an injury like this, you don't like to hear this kind of news. It's sad. It's not fun. You don't like talking about this kind of stuff because it's real life. But I do have a lot of hope for her if she comes back from injury. I think she could be a great singles act in WWE. I really do believe it. And I think this was something that could get her there. So hopefully all goes well. Hopefully whatever the injury is or whatever it may be, hopefully it's not, you know, a career-ending injury. But at the end of the day, health before wealth. I'm going to leave it at that. Ladies and gentlemen, that is the Ango Show.